Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto was Dragon Jinchuuriki in high school DxD. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by SwordOfTheGods and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Banished and Sealed. Year. 1659 AD. Location. Unknown. Please, God, hear me out, Lucifer, the strongest of the four great Satans, pleaded. Usually he would not have been one for pleading, but drastic circumstances had forced him. He waited until the image of the God of Christianity that hovered in front of the powerful devil indicated for him to continue. Thank you. As you know, the two strongest dragons, the Red Dragon Emperor, Drag, and the White Dragon Emperor, Albion, have begun fighting. I know that we are on opposite sides of a war, but if we let them continue their battle, there will be nothing left for us to fight over. No heaven or hell or life on earth. We must combine our powers to either kill them or force the two out of this dimension. The great I Am pondered the words of his devil adversary. Despite what some of his followers may think, he was not all-knowing. Nearly all-powerful maybe, but not all-knowing. The image seemed to look at the wall to the left of Lucifer, copying the movements of its visage as God looked out to view the warring dragons. A tremor raced through the room, shortly followed by the sound of a massive explosion. The image of God cringed, the original having seen the actual destruction of the land caused by the attack. Coming to a decision, the Lord turned back to the leader who had called for this negotiation. I accept your argument. The war is not over, but I will call a ceasefire until the great dragon emperors are gone. I know not if we can truly kill them, but it is within our abilities to banish them from this dimension. Where they will end up, though, I cannot say. As long as it is not here, it is no longer our concern. I suppose you are right. I only hope where they end up is somewhere with no life for them to destroy except each other. Line break. In the distance, two massive beasts battled to the death. One, a giant red dragon, shone brightly as his power doubled. In response, his opponent, a white being of the same race, shone as well. His white light cancelled out the red rays shining from the crimson creature and halved the doubled power. The red dragon emperor roared, charging at his foe angrily. The white dragon countered, biting at the armored neck of his opponent. Their fight had gone on for nearly 3 months, neither eating, sleeping, or caring about the destruction they had wrought so far. The only thought running through their intelligent but war-riddled minds was the order to kill the other. Neither remembered why the fight had started, too many blows to the heads causing loss of memory, but they fought on. I'm going to kill you, Albion. Roared the red dragon for what seemed like the 100th time. Not if I kill you first, Drag. The white dragon emperor responded. They engaged in combat once more as the great powers of the holy, devil, and fallen angel armies snuck out onto the battlefield. So how are we going to do this? Asked Azazel, the most powerful of the fallen angels. I'm not sure, responded Lucifer, the other great Satans behind him. I was hoping we could open a tier in space and force them through, but the power required to maintain the tier would not leave us enough to fight them into it. We shall wait, declared God. They will separate to regroup themselves before charging each other again. When they charge, we will open 2 rifts between them and let their momentum carry them through. That's brilliant, exclaimed Azazel. Just as you would expect from the Lord. They waited patiently and in silence, the only noise being the sounds of the battle before them. The combatants danced their deadly close combat steps for nearly an hour. Finally, the white dragon emperor flapped his wings, springing upwards and using his back legs to kick Drag in the face. The red one stumbled backward and the white one glided away. They glared at each other for a good minute, about a mile separating them. The time and distance was all that the beings below needed to enact their plan. With dual war calls, the mighty dragons rushed forward. A second later, 2 cracks in time and space opened in the air between them. Both beasts of godlike power tried to stop or turn, but to no avail. The great creatures sped through the openings between dimensions, coming out into a rocky land in the middle of the night. Line break. Year. 120 years before the Kyuubi attack. Location. Land of Earth, Elemental Nations. Current event. First Shinobi World War. The First Shinobi World War, or the Great Shinobi War, was winding down. Konohagakure, the village hidden in the leaves, and their allies, Kumagakure, the village hidden in the clouds, and Yuzugakure, the village hidden in the whirlpools, were preparing to finish the army of Iwagakure, the hidden stone village. Iwagakure's ally, the village hidden in the mist, Kurigakure, had abandoned them, dropping out of the war and conceding defeat after their failed invasion of the hidden whirlpool. The hidden sand, Sunagakure, had long since surrendered. Their numbers never were high even before the war and their loss to the joint Leaf Whirlpool army at the Battle of the Border. Still, the hidden stone was stubborn, refusing to budge or give an inch despite the overwhelming odds against them. The three armies of Cloud, Leaf, and Whirlpool stealthily approached their target from the north, south, and east, respectively, blending as best they could into the rugged terrain and the dark moonless night. The leader of Konoha called for a halt and began making hand signs for a just to. The armies on the other side stopped as well, members of the Yamanaka clan, relaying the Hokage's order. Just as Senju Hashirama, the leader of the Leaf, was about to finish his preparations, a roar tore through the night. The sound was like nothing the shinobi had heard before. The closest thing they could equate it to would be a call from a lizard summon, but even the call from the boss of the lizard clan was dwarfed by the sound. The cry woke every person within the village hidden in the stones and attracted the attention of every member of the three attacking armies. To the southeast, between the armies of Konoha and Yuzu, two jagged lines had opened within the air. Sunlight flowed through the openings, blanketing the areas around the cracks in the warm rays of a sun not known to the elemental nations. The leaders of each army wondered what Justu the stone ninja could have activated, but if the alarms coming from the settlement below were of any indication, they had nothing to do with it. Just as the alarms were beginning, two monstrous forms tumbled out of the openings. One, a large red dragon, skidded to a halt on its stomach, crashing into one of the many mountains the land of Earth was known for. The other, a white counterpart of the red dragon, came out of its crack sideways as if it had tried to turn suddenly. It barrel rolled for a good mile and a half before it extended the wings protruding out of its back and halted the motion. The two beasts raised themselves and turned to face each other. Surprising all those around, the lighter one spoke. "What did you do, Drag? This is not where we were fighting before." The voice was masculine. Deep, but not overly so. "I don't know and I don't care, Albion," the red one responded in a low bass. "As long as I kill your ass, I don't give a shit where it happens." The dragon that had spoken last fired a beam from his mouth, the red ray slamming into the unprepared dragon. The resulting explosion caused a shock wave that destroyed many buildings in Iwagakure and knocking over nearly every person and every tree, not that there were many of those to begin with in the area. The dragons' fight continued, the battle leading them every which way within a 2-kilometer radius. They stomped through the hidden stone village, flattening a majority of the city and killing shinobi and civilians alike. Many from said village attempted to stop the rampaging creatures, but their attacks did not even register to the battling beings. A misfired beam from the Red Dragon Emperor ripped through the center of the cloud forces, ending the lives of over 40 of Kumo's strongest warriors. The white one swiped at his opponent who took to the air. The swing cleaved into the mountain above the Leaf Ninja, the debris crushing many who were unable to get out of the way. In response to the attack, Drag dived at Albion, slamming into him and causing both to fall toward the army of Yuzugakure. The massive forms of the dragons crushed most of the members. Thinking quickly, the head of the Uzumaki clan and the leader of the Hidden Whirlpool ordered every able person of the clan to contain the beasts with their chakra chains. Chains of all colors sprung from the ground, wrapping over the dragons that snarled at each other. By the time the giant combatants realized they were being restrained, it was too late to escape. The dragons fought to break the chakra constructs holding them, but before they could, members of the Senju clan had arrived to aid their close friends. The wood release of the Senju added another layer to the prison of the giant beasts and ended any attempt or chance they'd had at escape. "What are we going to do with them?" asked the leader of Whirlpool as the beings from the other dimension roared from their prison. Hashirama looked to where they had come from, but the openings that had let them in had vanished, leaving no proof of their existence except the beasts they'd left behind. "Is there any chance we could seal them like we did the Biju?" "I don't know," his friend responded. "If we could, who would accept the burden?" "We would," the Ryakage answered, entering the talk of the fate of the powerful creatures. "I'm sure Kumo could find hosts for the both of them." "You will do no such thing, Ryakage Dono," the Hokage told him. "We've already given you both the Nibi, 2 tails, and the Hachibi, 8 tails. You don't need any more sealed beasts." "Well, I'm not going to let you have them, Hokage Dono. You have the Kyuubi, 9 tails, the strongest of the tailed beasts." "We'll take them," the head Uzumaki said calmly, the Raikage staring at the Yuzukage in surprise. Yuzu does not currently possess a tailed beast like Kumo or Konoha. The sealing of these dragons into citizens of Yuzugakure would make sense seeing as we are the only major village lacking at least one. The Raikage was forced to concede the point. The sealing of the dragons went off without a hitch and Iwa was forced to surrender since most of their city was crushed and their people killed. Thus, the Great Shinobi War ended and the stories of the Dragon Jinchuuriki began. Line break. Year. 100 years before the Kyuubi attack. Location. Yuzugakure. Current event. None. Uzumaki Sasamaru, I challenge you to a duel to the death. I accept, Uzumaki Seru. I'm going to kill you. The two combatants faced each other, the elders of the clan taking positions around the arena. The leader of the village walked between the two young men, a frown on his old yet young-looking face. "Are you too sure about this? One of you will not leave this arena alive and you are Yuzu's strongest warriors." "We know this, Yuzukage-sama, but we are destined to fight to the death," the one called Uzumaki Seru assured. "Could this fight not wait? I and the other cages sense that another world war is coming." "No, it cannot wait," cried the other, Sasamaru. "We may be twin brothers, but the beasts inside us cry out for the other's blood. By the power vested in me as the Red Dragon Emperor, I must kill the White One. But if one of you were to die, what would become of the beast inside you? I may not be able to stop you, but the power of the dragons may be needed to protect the village." "We do not know," Seru answered. "It is likely that the dragon would die with us, but the one that survives should become far stronger than before." "Fine," the Yuzukage groaned. "But let it be recorded that I am opposed to this duel." "Duly noted," called one of the elders, writing down his protest on the record he was keeping. "There is no stopping you. Let the duel begin." Line break. Uzumaki Sasamaru, the Red Dragon Emperor, lay dead on the ground. His twin, Seru, panting and bleeding heavily, stared down at his defeated opponent rather than the destruction around him. The young man's arm was still covered in the white and blue armor the vanishing dragon granted his vessel. Within his mind, the White Dragon Emperor, Albion, rejoiced. "Ahaha. Finally. I have killed Drag. Or, I guess, we have partner." "Don't call me partner." Seru yelled at the beast, surprising all the elders present who could not hear the dragon. "Because of you and your beef with the Red One, I was forced to kill my brother. Does it not bother you at all that your pointless battle drug us into it?" The man's armored arm shone before returning into his normal appendage as Albion considered his words. "I suppose it was not right to include either of you, but it was not our choice to take human vessels. And to continue our fight, we would have had to break out and probably killed both of you in the process. At least this way one of you survived. I don't care about that. My brother is dead. And I am sorry, but there is nothing I can do for you." The clan leader hesitantly approached the winner of the duel. He quickly signed a small series of hand signs, causing his hands to glow green. He placed his hands over Seru's bleeding wounds. The boy flinched at the initial contact, but the soothing sensation calmed him somewhat as the Justu began closing his wounds. "Now that you are done," the man said, sadness permeating his words, "we must begin preparing for the inevitable war." "Yes, grandfather." Meanwhile, Drag woke to the sound of a crying baby. Confused, he took in his surroundings. The area around him was blank, but for a small child with brown hair wrapped in a light brown cloth. A thought came to the Red Dragon Emperor and, with only a look around to confirm it, he concluded that he was in the mindscape of the baby. "Interesting," the dragon mused. "It appears that our otherworldly origins have affected this world's sealing of Albion in me. I suppose I should not be surprised considering the powers given to my last vessel, but I think we are now similar to the sacred gears of our world. That means we should move on to a new host after the previous one dies. Thus, why I am here rather than dead like Sasamaru. Things will be quite interesting here." But that thought, the Red One lulled himself into hibernation to wait for his vessel to grow. Line break. Time. 70 years before the Kyuubi attack. Location. Land of Wind. Current event. War between Yuzu and Suna. Two special solders faced each other in the middle of the desert. One, an older man with red hair flecked with silver, tightened his Yuzugakure headband. The second man, a younger male with brown hair and a deep tan, adjusted his Suna flak jacket. "You Uzumaki Seru?" the younger man questioned. "Depends. Who's asking?" "Name's Kuroto Midam. I'm the newest Red Dragon Emperor." "What are you talking about? My brother was the Red Dragon Emperor and I killed him many years ago." "Listen, pal. I'm not one for details, but Drag mentioned something called a sacred gear and finding new hosts. Honestly, I zoned out for half of it, but all in all, I'm here to kill you. The fact that we are at war only justifies that even more than the dragons could." The man's arm changed, gaining a cover of red armor with a large green gem. He sped forward with the speed of a ninja, his red-haired opponent reacting just as fast. "So that's how it is," Seru commented, holding back Midam's clawed fingers with his own white and blue armor. "You ready to die?" "Sorry, but it's not me that's going to die today." Line break. The battle raged until only one was left standing, leaving the enemy's body to be lost in the dunes. Laughing loudly, the Red Dragon Emperor congratulated his current vessel. Midam gave a chuckle at the antics of the beast that dwelled inside his body. He trudged back to the village hidden in the sands, a strong wind whipping his clothes about his form as he mused on if the next host of the White One would be stronger since he would not be part his prime. And thus, the cycle continued. Every couple of decades, the hosts of the great dragons would meet, fighting until only one was left alive. The dragon inside them would then move to their next host, the baby boy born closest to the moment that the previous host spirit passed into the next life. Little did they know that one host would change the world. End of exposition. Chapter 1. Beasts of Red and Orange. Date. October 10th, day of the Kyuubi attack. Location. Land of Greens. Current event. None. Two men stared at each other, not breaking eye contact or moving a muscle. Blood dripped from the weapons that stuck out of the bodies of each warrior. The host of the Red Dragon Emperor, a ninja of the hidden waterfall, coughed suddenly, red liquid spraying the face of the man who'd stabbed him. His opponent, a rogue cloud shinobi and the host of the White Dragon Emperor, smiled. That was, cough, a good fight, the Taki ninja rasped. It was, commented the other. We didn't have a winner though. The man retched, blood splattering the ground next to the soldiers. The sudden motion caused both weapons, a sword and an ambu knife, to dig deeper into their targets. No hard feelings, right? Asked the man from Taki, ignoring the pain caused by his wounds and the dragon inside him, who was calling for the immediate death of his foe. None at all, the other responded. I hope I meet you in the next life. I feel like we could be good friends. Indeed. Both men closed their eyes, passing away while their burdens moved to new hosts and their bodies fell to the ground. Like many times before, Drag found himself in the mindscape of his new vessel, a baby boy with bright blonde hair, but unlike the last few times, something felt wrong. Using his powers, the Red One tried to sense what was happening around the child he was now housed in. For a few seconds, everything was normal minus the fact that they were in a cave rather than a hospital. Father looking proudly at child. Check. Mother panting and wishing to see the child. Check. Midwife letting them do their thing before taking the child for tests. Double check for the assistant midwife. The new father looked to be in his early 20s. He had sharp features and short blonde hair that his son had inherited. His height was indistinguishable since the boy's small frame would make even the shortest person look big, so the Red Dragon Emperor turned his focus to the mother. The first thing that caught his eye was the bright red hair that he knew. Having been sealed inside a couple Uzumaki when they'd first arrived in this world, he and Albion would have remembered that red hair anywhere. Tearing his eyes from the striking follicles, Drag focused on her face. She had a rounded, beautiful face that her son had received, even if amplified due to the baby fat. She seemed tall like her husband, and her figure was the kind that some women would kill for. He'd seen it happen before, but what drew Drag's attention was her stomach where a complicated sealing matrix was quickly fading. The otherworldly dragon came to the conclusion that this woman must be a Jinchuuriki. Using all the data he had compiled over his time in the elemental nations, the Red One realized that he was in Konoha. He was obviously not in Taki anymore, the Jinchuuriki there had dark skin, teal hair, and just had the demon sealed inside her. Konoha were the only ones where the identities of the host of their Bijuu was kept secret from the public and, therefore, were able to live relatively normal lives. Other, more obvious clues included the fact that the mother was of the Uzumaki clan and the flak jacket the man sported. Oh Naruto, the woman cried with joy, naming the dragon's new host, you don't know how much I've wanted to meet you. Naruto, the man repeated. Welcome to the family. The midwife, a woman with graying hair and a kind face, lifted the baby out of the arms of the new mother and began to exit while the parents held each other, but she barely made it halfway out of the cave. With no sound to indicate that anything had changed, Drag felt his new host shift into the hands of some other person. It appeared the parents of this new host were shinobi because they reacted with reflexes of a speed that only ninja can obtain. The old woman and her assistant fell to the ground, dead, their throats cut. Drag focused upwards to see a man wearing an orange spiral mask with only one eye showing and a knife held at the throat of his new vessel. Back away from the Jinchuuriki, the man started in a deep voice, or the boy dies at the tender age of 1 minute. Who are you? The new father asked, not moving an inch, but ready to attack or dodge at a moment's notice. Me? The masked man responded. I'm no one, but if you force my hand I just might be the killer of your baby. Please, the blonde pleaded, leave the child out of this. You want the child out of this? Fine with me. Calmly, the intruder tossed the newborn vessel into the air. The other man lunged, dodged a thrown kunai, and caught the airborne newborn. As soon as the Konoha ninja had a hold on the baby, a blinding flash of light surrounded them. The next thing Drag knew, they were next to the man's wife rather than in the air. As the woman tried to stand, the mysterious man spoke once more. You seem to live up to the stories, Yellow Flash. Yellow Flash? Drag thought to himself. Where have I heard that name? A split second later, the answer struck him. The Yellow Flash was the nickname of the fourth Hokage of Konoha. That would mean that this man holding the new Red Dragon Emperor would be Namikaze Minato. Oh god, Drag thought. My new vessel is the son of the fourth Hokage. The masked man's next words pulled the Welsh Dragon Emperor from his thoughts before they could continue. So what are you going to do about the exploding tag? What tag? The Hokage asked. A sizzling sound started coming from the bottom of the blanket. Reacting quickly, Minato threw the cloth away, but had to retreat further when a hail of kunai flew toward him. The next thing Drag knew, there was a blinding flash of light and the scenery changed. His new vessel and the grown man were outside a cozy-looking house. The man rushed inside, quickly setting the newborn in a cradle, closed his eyes as if concentrating, cursed, and ran out of the building as fast as possible. The Red Dragon Emperor didn't know how long his new vessel was there for. The cold air was nice to begin with, but, with the baby naked as the day he was born, it soon became uncomfortable. Drag, feeling useless, began regulating his host's body temperature to ward off the cold. Somewhere in the distance, yelling and the roar of some large creature could be heard. "Well, this day sure is interesting," Drag mumbled. The roaring got closer after about half an hour until the sound shook the house itself, waking the infant. Drag glanced out the window and was glad he did. Outside the window pane was a monstrous orange-furred leg moving toward the building. The red one forced his power through his tiny crying host, covering the baby in a temporary crimson armor. The thing's appendage crashed through the home, reducing the whole thing to little more than shrapnel and kindling. Wood and plaster bounced off the armor of the new Red Dragon Emperor, but the child remained safe. The otherworldly covering lasted only a few seconds, but that time was well used. The boy's father dropped in, scooping up the child from the rubble of the ruined home, none the wiser that his son was the bearer of a dragon. He retreated to the trees, giving the baby a view of the beast he was facing. The newborn did not comprehend what he saw, but the creature inside him did, and he was not pleased. Standing before the father-son pair loomed the Kyuubi, the nine-tailed demon fox of tsunamis. Drag had heard about the giant fox's power through rumors and hearsay. One of his previous hosts had met the Bijuu's first Jinchuuriki, Uzumaki Mido, and she had been a pleasant woman, a personality trait she had obviously not shared with the demon before them. The demon was huge, about as large as Drag's true height, all the traits of a kitsune present, with the exception of 9 flowing tails, as opposed to only 1. The beast's chakra fur was an orange that was not bright enough to be called neon, but not shaded enough to be dark. The monster bent over, one huge red, slitted eye coming to rest on the male members of the Namikaze family. It let out a laugh, the octave between tenor and alto, and alternating from a yipping sound to a soft bark. Drag wondered if the fox had a gender, but felt like now was not the time to ask. "So this is the best of the world's strongest ninja village?" The Kyuubi questioned in an ambiguous voice. A child barely in his 20s and a newborn baby. "Is that the best the world's strongest demon can do?" The Hokage taunted back. "Break a house and talk." The Kyuubi growled in response. It snapped forward, forcing the fourth to jump backward lest he and his son be swallowed whole. The Hokage led the demon in a game of cat and mouse, panting the entire way. Now that Drag looked, it was obvious that the blonde man had been in a fight before coming to the baby's aid. "I really wish I didn't have to do this, Naruto," the new father muttered, "but I don't have a choice. Your mother is too weak right now, and I can't ask anyone else when I have my own child. Please forgive me." Drag was thoroughly confused. Why was he asking for forgiveness? The pair and the pursuing fox came to a clearing, probably one of the village's training grounds. The man shifted the crying baby in his arms until both of his hands were free. Still running, Minato blurred through a sequence of hand signs before slamming one palm on the growing in the middle of the field. From the summoning seal appeared a table with a white tablecloth and 8 candles that were already lit. The famous man laid the baby on the table as the giant kitsune caught up. The otherworldly dragon did not know what they were for, but the demon behind them seemed to. "No." The fox roared. "Not again. You will not seal me again." The Kyuubi lashed out with its tails, but, with a short sequence of seals, the Namikaze erected a barrier that repelled the attack. Once more, the Hokage began signing. Tiger, rat, boar, dog, bird, ram, on and on the sequence went, all the while with the demon fox pounding at the barrier. Around the 20th seal, the chakra wall cracked. The leader of the village faltered but did not stop. The orange beast continued to beat at the Justu, holding it out, cracking the translucent wall more and more. Just when the fox was rearing for the final blow, a red blur sped out of the trees while dragging a large blue chain behind. The chain slammed into the side of the Kyuubi's head and wrapped around its throat. "Kushina." Minato yelled to the one Drag recognized as the child's mother. "What are you doing here?" "I'm saving your ass, of course." The crimson-haired woman continued to grapple with the red-eyed monster, her chakra chains holding the beast like the reins of a horse. The fox struggled, but the woman held firm. In the protective dome, Minato neared the end of the 50 seal sequence. With a roar of defiance and desperation, the 9-tailed demon fox struck at the redeed with its center tail, skewering her. Her chains dissipated as the tail pierced her body. The weaponized appendage continued on its path, destroying the barrier and stabbing the blonde just as he finished the seals. "Seinfuen Justu," he coughed, blood trickling from the ends of his mouth, a trigram seal. The dying father placed his right hand on the stomach of his son, the black lines of the seal he had just cast fading onto the child's abdomen. He laid his other hand on the fox's tail. "No." The demon wailed as its essence was sucked into the seal. "Not again. Damn you, Namikaze Minato." Then, the beast vanished, trapped inside the child. "We're sorry," the red-headed mother muttered, her husband already having gone still. "Please, find happiness. I know you'll become a great ninja one day. My only regret is that I won't live to see it. Goodbye, Naruto." With that, the red-hot habanero of Konoha moved no more. The clearing sat in silence save for the crying of the newborn. Only a few minutes passed before an older man and a group of masked guards landed in the field. The man lifted the child from his position on the table, which promptly vanished in a poof of white smoke. With tears in his eyes, the third Hokage and now current leader of Konohagakure no Sato carried the child into the village. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2. Meeting the Maelstrom. Drag never did lull himself into hibernation. He chose to stay awake to get a feel for this new village. Never had he been in a Leaf Shinobi before. Sure, he had met them in both peaceful and not so peaceful circumstances, but he had never been in one. And then there was his cellmate when she, yes, she, was sealed into the boy, a golden cage had materialized to contain her power. Drag had tried to get to know the Kyuubi, but the female demon would have none of that. After getting over the surprise of there already being one great power inside her new vessel, and after yelling at him for calling her he, she blocked him out. He hadn't talked to her since her sealing, but the cage stood as a looming reminder of her presence. For Naruto himself, the boy was forced to grow up at a faster rate than normal, yet he retained much of his childishness due to his lack of constant parental guidance. It was an odd phenomenon that Drag had never seen before. Luckily, Drag was able to nudge the boy away from the largest amounts of trouble without him learning of the Welsh dragon. It was a simple enough matter to whisper suggestions in the boy's head under the guise of being his conscience, so that, though he was a prankster, Naruto never bit off more than he could chew. Drag would have revealed himself sooner, but there was a man with a lot of power that would like nothing more than to treat Naruto as a thoughtless weapon to be controlled. This man, Danzo, could do nothing so long as he thought the fourth son only contained the 9 tails. Drag shivered at the thought of what would happen if the old fart learned of his existence inside the child as well. Slowly, the Welsh dragon convinced the boy to learn meditation to control his temper. Plus it would make things easier when he felt it was time for the child to know of both of his burdens, along with all the other information he'd picked up the night of the boy's parents' deaths. Eventually, Naruto picked up the dream to become Hokage after protecting a little girl from a pack of bullies, a dream Drag fully supported. He had never been inside of a cage before, but neither had Albion, and the Red Dragon would love to be able to gloat about being the first in a vessel above the rank of Jonin. When Naruto reached his 6th birthday, chakra began seeping from the Kyuubi's cage. It was a sluggish but constant flow that integrated into the boy's chakra system, turning relatively tiny amounts of the child's blue chakra purple until it was diluted into a slightly darker blue. After that, his reserves began growing to contain the new energy, becoming the size of the average Chunins by the time the boy was 7. When he was 8, he was enrolled into the academy. The academy, the ninja school of Konoha, was available for children ages 8 through 12 and was almost always where orphans such as Naruto chose to go. Once the students graduated, they would be considered adults by most of the population. The first year was rough. Drag could easily tell why all the teachers were biased against his vessel, and it pained him to see the boy so confused, but he knew the ramifications of Naruto learning something before he was ready. His vessel from the hidden mist had stumbled in on a shark-like kid practicing in a cave when he was 6 and died before even Drag could help. That was many years ago and kept quiet. There was just something about Mizuki Tora, though, that didn't sit well with the Red Dragon. Luckily, Haruka Yamito treated Naruto like any other student. When their first test was passed out by Mizuki, Drag knew something was wrong. He could see the paper through Naruto's eyes, but it was sort of fuzzy. Using his conscience persona, the Red Dragon had Naruto raise his hand. "Is something wrong, Naruto?" Haruka asked. "I think I got the wrong test, Haruka-sensei." The wrong test? He may have only known the boy for a short time, but Haruka was sure that Naruto was not one to ask for help lightly. He rose and went to the students to check the validity of the blonde's claims. "A shuriken must be thrown at what minimum speed to achieve stabilized flight?" Haruka read aloud. "I'm not supposed to go over that until the end of this year. I'm sorry, Naruto. It seems you did get the wrong test. I'll get another one." The paper was replaced with one that was much easier, and Drag could see Mizuki scowl in the corner of Naruto's vision. The boy quickly finished the test and sat back down, contemplating about the mix-up. With Drag's whispers egging him to his conclusion, Naruto chose to be wary of Mizuki and to study more. He only accepted the latter because it would increase the types of pranks he could do, but Drag had a feeling it would lead to him being one hell of a trap master one day. Naruto worked his way through the academy, wary of which teachers seemed to be out to get him and which teachers weren't. Of all of them, Mizuki seemed particularly mean. Eventually, though, he was forced to back off when Haruka started getting suspicious. Despite this, Drag enjoyed listening to the history lectures, especially the ones about him and Albion. Apparently, they were categorized with a Biju in power, but the Leaf had no way of knowing how their powers were transferred from one vessel to the next. Albion had once had a vessel in the Leaf, but when they had fought, he had been silent and emotionless. When one student had asked the difference between a Biju and the dragons, Haruka had responded that the tailed beasts were sealed into a young child, while the dragons just seemed to appear randomly. Naruto also wormed his way into the hearts of the city's librarians, at first needing a note from the Hokage to enter without being kicked out to do so. But he finally used his childish curiosity to convince them that he was just another kid. There he started doing some advanced studies including chakra control techniques and basic D-rank jutsus. The water style, condensation technique and air style. Wind burst technique became very useful for reducing his extremely large water bill and his towel cleaning bill to a much more manageable level. His extracurricular learning not only helped with its practical applications, but its theoretical applications rose his grades until he was average, leaving Kiba Inyazuka as dead last of the class. Unfortunately, while his written grades were up, his fighting grades were less than stellar. The feral-looking boy and every other clan-trained student were able to easily beat him in any sparring matches they had. His conscience told him that physical training would be the best he could get until he could find a teacher, so Naruto had begun practicing 4 to 5 days a week at any training field that was open. Drag was more than happy to quietly coach him through his exercises, even going so far as to knock off a simple kata from Yasushi Agakure and leave the boy believing that he'd made it up himself. The kata was the easiest of the whirling tide fist style that the Uzumaki were well known for. They'd even had a song for it back in the time of his first vessel, but he only remembered the lines "be as swift as a raging river, with all the force of a great typhoon," and something about the moon. Either way, the child slowly developed, becoming more proficient in the style his mother had used. He surpassed several of the clan children and all of the civilians within 2 months, not that he really had anything better to do than practice. The summer between the boys' first and second years, the Uchiha clan was massacred by one of their own. All but 2 were killed. The killer and his younger brother Sasuke. The child in question turned in on himself, pushing everyone away and clinging to his father's teachings, telling himself that just because he was an Uchiha he was entitled to all the power in the world and that everyone was inferior to him. Drag steered his vessel away from a friendship with him. Such a thing would only be corrosive, a ticking time bomb. By the end of Naruto's second year in the academy, Drag knew full well that the young Hyuga heiress had an infatuation with his vessel. He refrained from mentioning it, though, he had to have some entertainment after all, but like hell was he going to let his blonde holder chase the pink-haired banshee. That girl was nothing but bad news, and the Welsh dragon was hoping that the other pale-eyed girl would speak up at some point, but he and the rest of their classmates seemed to enjoy watching their little drama play out. He decided to add that to the list of things he may mention when the Jinchuuriki learned of his existence sometime after he graduated and was out of Danzo's reach. Although speaking of the girls, many of his vessels had found multiple loves, some at the same time. That was something for later. In the third year of the academy, the students moved from theoretical to practical chakra application. Yes, Naruto had learned to use a couple of jutsu already, but those were some that did not have an upper limit of energy that caused them to not work. These new things were. The students were taught simple exercises like leaf sticking. Naruto had a lot of trouble due to his large reserves, a fact that led Drag to, once again, whisper into Naruto's subconscious. "Iruka-sensei?" he asked, raising his hand. His leaf fluttered to the ground several feet away after his last attempt at the exercise. "Is there a way to measure how much chakra someone has? I think I have too much for this." "Too much?" the scarred man had questioned. "You're an academy student. How much chakra do you think you have?" "I don't know. That's why I asked." His snarky response caused more than a few laughs. "Iruka-sensei," Hinata Hyuga stuttered quietly, her hand raised just over her head. Can't see people's ch chakra W with my Byakugana and Naruto-kun's chakra I is a lot denser than anyone else's." The poor girl must have been far outside her comfort zone, her face bright red from all the stares she was getting. Her words had an impact, however, and led the teacher to open his desk. He pulled out a small orb with clear liquid inside of it. "This is an orb created by the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju," Haruka began. "It is called the Buo Sakute, the measuring orb. Not the most creative name, I know, but its purpose is to measure the amount of chakra a person has." A civilian student raised their hands. "Yes. Why do you have it?" "The Hokage entrusted it to me because I was researching how to duplicate it. Anyway, if you send a little bit of chakra into it, it will hone in on your chakra signature and glow brighter in proportion to the amount of chakra it senses. Here, let me demonstrate." He sent a sliver of energy into the orb causing to react, glowing like a blue light bulb. All things considered, Haruka only had average-sized reserves. He then passed it to Sakura Haruno. She pushed her chakra into it, but the orb only flickered dimly. The girl started tearing up. "I'm a failure," she cried. "No, no, no." Haruka hurried to tell her. "That's very normal for academy students. You're still young and your chakra coils are still developing. The only ones that should have enough to make it glow steadily would be the clan children because their families naturally have more chakra than civilians due to their family jobs as ninja. I believe we went over that in the genetics lessons last year." The girl had stopped crying, nodding along when he brought up the lesson. Of course she remembered. She remembered nearly every book lesson they'd had. "So Ino would have more chakra than me because she comes from a family of ninjas." "Yes. Now please pass the orb to Miss Hyuga." Hinata eeped but was able to take the item. A second later, the orb gave off a dull but steady blue glow. "As you can see, Miss Hyuga has a higher amount of chakra but still not enough to make a very bright glow." He took the orb back before walking over to the blonde. "I believe you know what to do." Naruto nodded and took the orb. He split off what was, in his mind, a minuscule amount of chakra and pushed it into the orb. The resulting light was blinding. The boy dropped the item, his hands flying up to cover his eyes. The orb hit the floor with a thud and rolled away slowly, still glowing brighter than it had been when their teacher was holding it. Haruka was dumbstruck. Haruka stammered. "I've only seen that happen 3 times." No one asked for details. Most were busy rubbing the spots out of their eyes. The orb continued to roll away from the boy, dimming the further it got. "What was that?" Naruto asked, rubbing his eyes. "Why was it so bright?" "I don't know how," Haruka stammered out, "but it appears you somehow have Jonin level reserves." "That's a lot, right?" "Yes it is," the teacher answered, "and if I were to hazard a guess, I'd say that with those reserves and your lack of chakra control, there are quite a few low-level jutsu that we teach in the academy that you will be unable to do. I'll have to find you some more chakra-consuming alternates." Classes continued without problems, the blonde being given alternate assignments when Haruka didn't think his large pools would let him complete the jutsu. While he was able to learn Hanjin substitution, Haruka ended up teaching him the Earth Clone Jutsu rather than the regular Jinjutsu version. Most of Naruto's 4th year came and went until the time of the graduation exam came. "Right," Haruka said, standing in front of the class alone. Mizuki had been MIA since the start of the year. No one knew why, presumably a mission gone wrong, but the real answer was that Naruto had told the Hokage of his suspicions of his allegiances. The Hokage had agreed to check it out. Mizuki went missing the next day. Either way, Haruka carried on. Ninja died and or vanished every day. The class began outside for the Bakujutsu portion of the test. The majority passed with flying colors or flying gray. Then there was the hand-to-hand combat section. Naruto passed, leaving Kiba on the ground unconscious, his whirling tied fist style outmaneuvering Kiba's passing fang. With that done, the class went inside for the written portion before moving on to the Academy 3. The blonde passed with an acceptable 78 on his written part and then eagerly awaited his name to be called. He'd always been the second to last, falling before only Ino Yamanaka. Finally, after Sasuke had waltzed in and waltzed out with a new headband, Naruto's name was called. He made his way into the room and was greeted by Haruka. "Alright, Naruto. Good job so far. I know you can do this, so show me the 3. The unknowing Jinchuuriki nodded and quickly hinged into the Hokage before substituting with a nearby chair. He then made the specific hand signs needed and walked over to the window. Haruka followed, glancing outside to see the boy's clone of Earth waving from below. "Congratulations, Naruto," Haruka smiled. "You pass. You're now a shinobi of Konoha. Be back here in a week for team assignments. It's been nice teaching you." "I did it." Naruto cheered, taking the headband Haruka was offering while dancing happily. He danced out as Ino was called in and went to celebrate. "Tonight should be the night," Drag mused as his vessel continued to gorge himself on what he claimed was the food of the gods. "The boy has graduated, so he should be outside of that bastard's reach. I'll let him enjoy himself for now. His world is about to get a whole lot bigger." Right at that moment, the blonde Jinchuuriki thanked the ramen chef and left, leaving some money on the counter. He casually walked back to his apartment with a spring in his step, showing off his headband to anyone who looked. Naruto finally made his way back to his home, happily greeting the grumpy landlord on his way in and ignoring the finger he got in return as he climbed the stairs. No one had left messages that day, so entering was a calm affair. He used the water style condensation to make himself a bath before scrubbing himself clean and changing into his night clothes. He laid down in bed. That's when the dream that would change his life began. It all started with a deep rumbling laugh. Naruto's eyes snapped open, a dingy sewer coming into vision. The laugh was resonating through the tunnel of shin-high water from somewhere ahead. The passage behind him was blocked off, so he did the only thing he could and followed the sound. A few minutes later found him entering a cavernous opening. There, two mountainous things were sitting on opposite sides, one large red dragon with green eyes on the left and a golden cage big enough to contain it on the right. Within the cage was an orange mass. What an honor to finally reveal myself, Red Dragon Emperor, the dragon rumbled. Naruto blinked. I've had some pretty weird dreams, but this may just be the weirdest. The dragon laughed, his giant wings stretching with his breaths. That was not the reaction I was expecting, he chuckled. He'd been so starved for interaction that he couldn't help himself. Though I suppose it isn't really a surprise. You're asleep, yes, but this is not a dream. We are currently in your mindscape. I am Drag, the Welsh dragon, and you, Naruto Uzumaki, are my vessel. Wait a second. Welsh dragon as in one of the two dragons that are said to have come from another world. That is correct, young one. I'm glad I convinced you to study. Be what? Drag smiled. Now that you are considered an adult and under the power of your Hokage, rather than your ridiculous and paranoid civilian council, I am able to reveal myself without them being able to interfere. I have existed inside you ever since your birth and have been nudging you in the right direction. There are many things I know that you desire. Since my birth. Does that mean that you know who my parents are? Do you know where they are? Do I have any family out there? One question at a time, child, Drag slowed. I'm sorry to say that some of the answers you seek are not happy ones, but your whole history is rather complicated. You might as well get comfortable. But where will I sit? This is your mind, Drag answered. You can do anything you want. With that answer, Naruto tried to summon a chair, a plush seat appearing behind him. Now I will get the initial shock out of the way. Your father was the fourth Hokage. The boy was still for a moment. What? He croaked. Minato Namikaze was your father. He and your mother, Kushina Uzumaki, died shortly after you were born. I do not know everything, only what you were there for, but your family and your village were attacked by a masked man and the nine-tailed fox that night. Your parents died sealing the fox into you. But Iruka-sensei said that the fourth killed the fox, Naruto answered, his mind reeling from the information overload. Neither the Biju nor Albion or I can be killed by you mortals, no matter how strong. Your Hokage ordered them to teach that in the academy, so the younger generation would see you as another child, not as a Jinchuuriki, a Biju container. So when Mizuki was trying to sabotage me. Yes. That's why. The fox is over at that cage there. She's not much of a talker, so I'm glad your life had been relatively interesting. She? There's quite a bit more you'll want to know. This'll take all night. And so they talked. Drag told him of their immediate threat in Danzo and the inevitable fight with the White Dragon Emperor, whomever that may be now. They talked about the history of the Uzumaki and the fighting style Drag had whispered in his ear. They talked and talked and talked all through the night and into the next day. Naruto knew that, at some point, he'd have to tell the Hokage about this, so he might as well learn everything he could first. End of Chapter 2. Chapter 3. Team Assignments. Hiruzen Sarutobi had been having a good day. The newest class of academy students had graduated, giving him enough for 9 three-man teams. He'd been discussing with a potential Jonin sensei on the pros and cons of various pairings and was leaning toward the next generation of Ino Shikacho, a tracking unit and a legendary Team 7. He'd been about to finalize that when Naruto walked in. And he ruined just about everything. The boy had waltzed in unannounced like he usually did, forcing the older man to quickly hide the official documents before signing them. The newly minted ninja was quiet, pensive, a look of seriousness on his usually smiling face that Hiruzen had never seen before. Hey, old man, Naruto began. I learned some things last night that I think you need to know. Is your office secure? Startled by the question, it took the man a few seconds to respond. One moment. The leader of the Leaf tapped a few ninjutsu carved into his desk, activating a ceiling array that made the walls of the room shimmer blue for a second. Now only my guards and I can hear you. What would you like to talk about? Obviously you didn't drop by for a social call. Taking a page out of Drag's book, he decided to get the biggest news out of the way first with a direct and blunt statement. I'm the newest Red Dragon Emperor. The Hokage's pipe fell from his mouth, the smoldering tobacco spilling from inside. He blinked. Could you repeat that, please? I think I heard you wrong. I'm the newest Red Dragon Emperor, Naruto repeated. I met Drag, the Welsh dragon, last night. He told me about my history, who I really am, and who in this village wants me as a puppet. Are you certain this wasn't a dream? The head of the Sarutobi clan asked with a pleading tone. If this was true, then the dragon had some of the worst timing. I'm positive, the boy nodded. He told me about my parents and the night they died. He mentioned that they were attacked. And he mentioned that he was hiding himself because of a man named Danzo Shimura would have wanted to turn me into a mindless slave like he did Albion's vessel. He said he wanted me to be a legal adult and under your jurisdiction so the civilian council would have no control over me. Hiruzen sighed. That's not good news at all, he finally said. This information throws a wrench into quite a few plans. Really? How so? You're not an official genin yet, the Hokage said, surprising the boy. You only become a ninja when your Jonin sensei approves of your three-man team. If your sensei does not, you and your would-be teammates are sent back to the academy for another year. Naruto's mouth had gone dry. So I'm not under your power yet? He asked quietly. The Hokage shook his head. I'm afraid not. What are my chances of getting my Jonin sensei's approval? I was just about to finalize the team assignments when you walked in. You were going to be on a team that was basically guaranteed to pass because of political reasons. Is that okay with you? Wouldn't that mean I'm on a team with one of the main clan's heirs? Hiruzen nodded. Which one? Sasuke. That bastard? Naruto questioned. The village leader was taken aback. Both of the boys were orphans. Wouldn't that give them a similarity to base a friendship off of? What's wrong with him? Drag explained to me last night why he kept me away from him. A relationship of any kind with that emo would be, in his words, corrosive and a ticking time bomb. He's only led by his search for revenge and drag, and I think he'd go so far as to betray the village to get it. Drag has seen it happen before. I'd heard Sasuke was a little conceited, but that is concerning. I'll have Yamanaka try to help him, but are you adamant about not teaming with him? Yes, Naruto nodded. Although, being the Red Dragon Emperor, I'm best suited to be a frontline heavy hitter, so if any teams need a strength boost, I'd be fine with that. I was going to try to make a specialized tracking unit with Hinata Hyuga, Shino Aburam, and Kibit and Yuzuka. They probably would have been the weakest of the teams I expect to truly pass. I can work with Shino and Hinata, Naruto stated. They're both pretty quiet. Kiba rubs me the wrong way, but he and Sasuke don't hate each other. That's good to hear, Hiruzen responded. I guess it's a good thing you came in when you did. Any later and we could have had a problem on our hands. Thanks, old man. The blonde got up to leave, but said old man's words held him for several more seconds. Oh, and Naruto. Until you are officially a ninja, I'm making your status as the Red Dragon Emperor an S-class secret. You are not to let anyone find out between now and next week at the earliest. Is that clear? Yes, Hokage-sama, Naruto nodded. That was no laughing matter. Oh, and old man. That sleeping beast in my gut. The orange one, not the red one. It's a she. Hiruzen Sarutobi stared at the door as the boy left. Reviewing all the information he'd learned over the course of this interruption, he came to one conclusion. First the teams, he mumbled to himself, then the sake. A lot of sake. Naruto went through the week like his usually did, deliberately forcing his curiosity about using his power as the Red Dragon Emperor down until he would be able to. He continued to converse with Drag at night. The dragon had explained that he could not talk to him outside of dreams or whispers unless Naruto summoned his boosted gear, an action that had agreed to not do until he was officially a ninja. The boy happily walked into the academy the next Monday morning. He had a smile on his face and a spring in his step as he stepped into his room. Looking around, he spotted the two other students who, if the Hokage had done as they'd talked about, would be his teammates until their promotions to Chunin. He bounced over to them and sat down next to the female. Hi, Hinata, he greeted happily. He also caught Shino's eye behind them and nodded to the silent male, a nod that said male returned with one of his own. Hello, and Naruto-kun, the girl responded, twiddling with her fingers. The three fell into a comfortable silence, each thinking about their own things. Naruto wondered who their sensei would be. Hinata's mind ran rampant with countless thoughts as to why her crush would suddenly approach her. Shino was simply curious as to why the blonde had greeted them, as if he knew something about them that they did not. The three turned their attention to Iruka as he took his place at the front of the room and cleared his throat. Good morning, everyone, the man said. Congratulations on passing your exams. I am very proud of you all, and I'm sure many of you will go on to be feared in many other villages and hailed as heroes here in Konoha. Now, without further ado, since you all must be out of your minds to know, on to the team assignments. Team 1 he droned on his names were rattled off. Finally, he reached the names Naruto knew. Team 7 will consist of Sasuke Uchiha, the girls of the class who had not been assigned perked up, Sakura Haruno, said girl screeched happily as the others moaned sadly. Naruto was glad he'd talked to the Hokage. A team with those two would have been a disaster waiting to happen, and Kibit and Yuzuka. The boy and his dog Akamaru whined, the memory of the girl's screech fresh in his mind. Teammate will have Shino Aburam, Hinata Hyuga, and Naruto Uzumaki. Hinata perked up and shrunk back at the same time with mixed emotions about being on the same team as Naruto. Shino came to the conclusion that the blonde of their team knew the team assignments before they were announced. Either way, it now mattered not. And finally, since Team 9 is still around from the last class, Team 10 will be Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamichi, and Ino Yamanaka. That is all. Once more, I would like to tell you all how proud I am of you all making it this far. Your new senseis will be here in a few minutes to pick you up. Good luck everyone." Just as he finished, a plethora of men and women, most wearing flak jackets of Konoha, entered. Among them were 2 women and a man. The first woman, who was standing between the other 2, had wild black hair that fell to the middle of her back and framed her face and the headband that sat on her forehead, olive skin and red eyes. She wore a dress that looked like overlapping cloth and blue shinobi sandals sat on her feet. The man who was standing on the right of the first woman had shaggy black hair that was styled up to not cover his headband or his onyx eyes. He was dressed in stereotypical Konoha ninja gear consisting of dark blue pants and long sleeve shirt, blue shinobi sandals, and a green flak jacket. A cigarette sat in his mouth, but it was unlit due to the academy's no smoking policy. The other woman, who was standing at the first's other shoulder, had shorter purple hair that was pinned up at the back of her head and fell down to cover most of her headband, a stick of dango in her left hand. She was dressed in a brown-orange skirt over fishnet shorts and a fishnet top under a Konoha flak jacket and a tan trench coat, both of which were left open to show a good amount of curve from her breasts. She had off-white boots that ended at her shins, and her dark purple almost black eyes held a predatory, sadistic glint in them. As the students watched, her tongue, which seemed unusually long, slithered out of her mouth, pulled a ball of dango off of the stick in her hand, and moved back in. Those who had a front row seat felt sorry for the unfortunate souls that would have her as their teacher. The man of those 3 stepped forward and opened his mouth, ready to introduce himself and take his own team. That did not happen. The purple-haired woman kicked him in the side, sending him into the wall. "Alright, you little shits," the woman declared happily. "I am the beautiful and sexy Anko Mitarashi. Teammate, get your asses to training ground 5 in the next 5 minutes." The woman exploded into white smoke. The room was silent for several long seconds. "Oh shit," Naruto realized. "That's us. Come on guys." He reached down, taking Hinata's hand in his right and Shino's wrist in his left, and ran to the window. They were in such a hurry, however, that the blonde did not stop to open it. He simply kicked the glass out and jumped. Their trip took exactly 4 minutes and 50 seconds. When they arrived at the training ground, a wide, flat area covered in pebbles of all shapes and sizes, they found their sensei sitting on a training post with dango sticks surrounding her. They all were out of breath. Well, the woman laughed at the gasping 12-year-olds. "I didn't expect you 3 to actually make it here on time. You've passed the first test. And, while I would love nothing more than to drive you all into the ground right now and dance to the sound of your pain screaming, I'm not allowed to push you that far yet. So. Introductions while you catch your breath, though I wouldn't bother, you'll lose it again soon enough. Blondie, you first." Naruto glared at her. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki, not Blondie. I like training and ramen as well as my friends. I hate waiting for food if I'm alone and I'm starting to not like you. I will be Hokage when I get older. You're next, Buggy." "I am Shino Aburam," said Student Huffed, trying to hide how out of breath he was. "I also would prefer not to be associated with the moniker Buggy. The name brings up the image of a pirate in my mind. I like bugs. I dislike people who kill bugs for no good reason. I wish to be a good clan head like my father. In short. We'll work on that." Wide eyes. "You're up." Hinata squeaked. I'm Hinata Hyuga. I like cinnamon buns and my sister Hanabiya," and she trailed off, her eyes barely glancing at Naruto. It wasn't much, Anko almost didn't catch it and she was a jonin, but she saw. And she smirked. I dislike the cage bird Sela and some things about my C clan. I want to find my strength and change them." Anko smirked. "Alright, maggots. Note that I've learned most of your deepest secrets through your body language, take off your shoes." "Why?" Naruto questioned while Hinata eeped at the idea of her knowing their secrets. "Because I said so and I'm a higher rank than you. Now take off your shoes and drop and give me 100 push-ups." Naruto grumbled angrily but did as told, Hinata following in his example. Shino was already down, going slowly. As they continued, the sharp rocks underneath them cutting into their palms, Anko decided to introduce herself properly. She sat on Naruto's back. "I'm Anko Mitarashi, Jonin, and, if you maggots somehow impress me, your sensei. My likes include eating dango, a good romp in the sack, and torturing people slowly in T&I. My dislikes are none of your concern. Also, you will not bring up the topic of the Sannin when I am around." "And Huff would huff or huff your huff dreams?" Naruto asked between his exercises. He'd be damned if he was sent back to the academy because he was rude, even if his sensei was a sadist. "I'm glad you asked, Whiskers." She bent down, pressing her body against his and whispered in his ear. "I want to kill a pedophile." She stood up abruptly, nearly causing the blonde to collapse. He did fall in surprise, however, when she smacked his ass on the way up. She then sauntered her way over to the girl of the 3 and bent down in front of her. "You have self-confidence problems," she told the girl lowly, "and I know how to get you to work." The woman took sadistic pleasure in the fearful face of the Hyuga heiress. "And you, bug boy, as just plain creepy. I like it." Naruto dropped, him being the first to finish. Hinata fell several seconds later, her arms shaking uncontrollably. Finally, Shino gave a pained gasp and crumpled, having done the least amount of reps but also going the slowest. Anko drug him over so he was facing the other two and pulled out 4 pairs of handcuffs. She slapped them onto the pre-teens so they were connected, with Naruto having both of his wrists connected to Hinata's, with Shino having his arms cuffed within the area inside their restraints. She then pulled out a can of bug spray and sprayed the cuffs. "Why do I suddenly feel so much more tired?" the blonde questioned. "These is chakra-suppressing handcuffs from the T&I department," Anko smiled. "You kiddies have 1 hour to get out of those by any means necessary without leaving the training ground." Also, Anko brought out their supply pouches that she'd stolen. "I took the liberty of relieving you of all your oh-so-heavy weapons. Before I leave, I'll give you a gift." She threw 3 small pills into the surrounding gravel. "Those are painkillers. I'll be back in an hour. Have fun." She shoo-shined away. "Damn it," Naruto mumbled, pulling himself up into a sitting position. The shift pulled at Hinata's wrists, the cuffs digging into her skin from where the purple-haired woman had tightened them far more than necessary. "Ow," the girl moaned. "Sorry, Hinata," Naruto sighed. "Either of you to have an idea?" The Hyuga and the Aburam stayed silent, the latter shaking his head and the former looking down sadly. "I didn't think so." She said, "We have an hour, right? Let's take a few minutes to brainstorm." The boy shifted into a meditation pose and tried to dive into his mind. He succeeded after several minutes. The sower that seemed to be his mind swam into view. Why it was a sower, he had no idea. He made a mental note to try to change it later, a literal sticky note popping into existence beside him, much to his surprise. Waving it off, Naruto walked forward and into the cavern with the dragon and the cage. "Yo, Drag," he greeted. "What's up? Did you come here to talk or ask for advice?" The red dragon rumbled. "A little bit of both, I guess. You said, when we first met, that the Nine Tails chakra has healing properties, right? Where are you going with this?" Drag asked. "I don't see what that information has to do with your current situation. Just tell me." "Fine. Yes, it does. Why? How much could it heal at one time?" "Theoretically, most of an appendage, but that would take up almost all of the pure demonic chakra in your system. Your power is doubling your and my power, right?" Drag nodded. "Could you build up some of that and transfer it to the Kyuubi's chakra?" "I suppose I could. It's moving slowly due to those cuffs, though." "I'll deal with those, just try to get that healing stuff ready." "Boy, wait." Drag tried to call him back, a vague idea of his plan coming to mind, but it was too late. He bustled about. The kid's career was on the line if Drag was right. "Udo-kun. Naruto-kun." The blonde came to, Hinata calling his name. "Nearly 20 minutes have elapsed," Shino informed him. "We have thought of nothing." "I have," Naruto said. "It's going to hurt like a bitch, though. Do either of you have a hairpin?" Hinata nodded. "Did either of you collect the painkillers?" "I had my insects do so." The clan heir held out the small pills which the orphan took from him. "Right. Shino, I need you to do me a favor." "Yes. I need your bugs to chew my arms off." "What?" the insect user asked, shocked, while the girl yelled, "No. Naruto-kun, you can't." "Trust me," the Jinchuuriki placated. "I think I can regrow them. Just give me a minute so these pills will take effect." He threw all 3 into his mouth and crunched down on them, swallowing all of them at once. "Are you certain of this?" Shino asked, his bugs slowly spreading out from under his oversized coat to swarm around him. Naruto noted that they stayed away from the cuffs. Whatever Anko sprayed them with was some strong-ass stuff. "How fast can they do it?" "Naruto-kun. 3 seconds, give or take half a second." Naruto nodded and pulled his sleeves back with his teeth, his nose scrunching at the smell from the cuffs. "You can't seriously be considering this." Hinata rounded on Shino, her anger overruling her timidity. "You could cripple Naruto-kun for life. There has to be another way." "We don't have time," Naruto told her. "We have about 25 minutes left. I think I could work out basic lockpicking in 20. Do it, Shino." "Hi." The boys swarmed over the blonde's exposed arms, the girl screaming in the background. The Jinchuuriki clamped his mouth shut, grinding his teeth through the only slightly dulled pain. Within seconds, his arms were rendered stumps ending halfway between his elbow and where his wrists used to be, the severed appendages left locked in the cuffs. Naruto rolled away, gasping as red energy bubbled out of his wounds along with his blood. The energy plugged the veins and arteries, stopping the boy's profuse bleeding. The blonde then heard the dragon inside him say boost. The chakra doubling in potency. Skin stretched over the exposed muscle, the bone growing out in the air. Ligaments sprung up, wrapping around newly formed metacarpals and 10 new carpals that moved on to his phalanges. Muscles spiraled out just after blood vessels as another boost. Sounded in Naruto's mind, the growth speed doubling. Finally, the skin quickly creeped its way out from where the stumps had been, covering the red cells, until even Naruto's fingernails had regrown. Naruto looked back to his teammates, only to find that Hinata had passed out and Shino had lost his glasses in shock, revealing his eyes to be a leafy green. Naruto tried to play it off with a laugh. Glad that worked, he laughed tiredly. The Jinchuuriki shuffled over to his unconscious teammate and combed his hands through her hair, not hearing her pleased moans as his fingers lightly raked her scalp. Finally, he found one of the hairpins that she'd used to pin her hair back with and pulled it out. "Let's see here," Naruto mumbled to himself, lifting one of Shino's cuffs and prodding the pin into the opening. Drag whispered instructions into his mind, subtly guiding his hand until there was a soft click and the restraint popped open. He then repeated the process 3 more times, releasing Shino's other hand and both of Hinata's. The girl came to just as her other cuff popped off and clattered to the stones at their feet. Now that was something to see, they heard a familiar voice say. Their captor sensei strode back into the training ground with a plate of dango, a square foot of pebbles sinking from where her shadow clone had popped underneath, leaving the space empty. "I said I'd accept you as my team if you could impress me. Consider me impressed." "Does that mean?" Naruto began hopefully. "Yes it does," Anko confirmed. "Congrats, maggots of Team 8. End of Chapter 3. Chapter 4. Training start. "Does that mean?" Naruto began hopefully. "Yes it does," Anko confirmed. "Congrats, maggots of Team 8. To say Naruto was excited would be an understatement. With Anko's announcement, the blonde grabbed the closest person to him and swung them around happily. Said person turned out to be Hinata, who turned red and passed out. "We did it," Naruto sang happily. "We did it, isn't that exciting, Hinata? Hinata. Hinata. Ahahaha." Anko laughed, covering up Shino's quiet chuckles. "Now that's some funny shit right there." "What are you laughing about?" the blonde asked, angry at being laughed at and with the girl dangling unconscious in his arms. The remaining pain in his newly regrown appendages wasn't exactly helping his mood either. "You're totally oblivious, aren't you? That just makes it better." "Shut up. What am I oblivious to?" "You won't get anything out of me, Whiskers. Now, I'm going to treat you 3 to a late lunch for being the first team to pass my test. And Whiskers, you're carrying wide eyes." "I wasn't going to trust you to carry her anyway," Naruto said, covering up his growling stomach. Anko only smirked in response. 15 minutes found the new teammate in their teacher's favorite dango shop, Naruto and Hinata on one side of the booth and Anko and Shino on the other. The girl was slowly coming to while the blonde and the older woman were staring each other down. Shino was sitting quietly. Hinata woke and read the tension in the air. "Sensei?" she asked, pulling Anko's attention from the girl's crush. "Since we're your students now, what would you like us to see call you?" "Anko sensei would be fine," the woman responded, "but I think sexy sensei would be better." "Bitch sensei would be more appropriate," Naruto stated. "What was that, Gaki?" "You heard me, bitch sensei." The two were locked into their staring contest again, but it was broken when the proprietor of the shop walked over and slid 7 plates of dango, 1 to each of the students and 4 to the teacher, onto the table. The woman cheered and began eating ravishly, as if she had been the one using energy to regrow limbs. Next to her, Shino ate quietly. Across from him, Naruto glanced at his food. He'd never had dango before and was questioning Anko's scandalous claims of said treat being better than ramen. Finally, after watching both Hinata and Shino begin eating, Naruto gingerly lifted the food and took a bite. The blonde was forced to admit that it was good, but nowhere near ramen. He ate rather slowly, about average speed for anyone else, the flavors of the food dancing over his tongue. "Alright, brats," Anko began, having already eaten her much larger portion. "Since I'm your sensei now, you are no longer academy students and under my command. I will be in charge of your training from now on, and all missions you do will be on my watch. Training will be every day, 7 AM to 6 PM unless I say otherwise. Understood?" "Hi," the 3 chorused. "Good. We start tomorrow. Go home and get some rest. You're going to need it." After the team dispersed so Hinata and Shino could tell their parents that they'd passed, Naruto went back to the training field. He was now an official genin, so he didn't care if someone saw him learning to use his new power. "Alright," Naruto said to no one in particular. "How do I do this?" After a second of thought, he closed his eyes and looked within himself the way Iruka had told them to when teaching about chakra, except this time he pushed aside that energy and looked for the power that was distinctly not his own or that of the Kyuubi. Drag's power. He could feel it flowing through his body, hidden under his chakra, but it seemed closer within his left arm, so that's where Naruto pulled. The energy reacted, shooting up to condense just above the skin in a flash of red light. Naruto opened his eyes, his arm weighted down by a gauntlet as red as blood. The only exception to this color scheme was the baseball-sized green gem on the back of his hand. "Good job, Naruto," Drag rumbled in his mind. "You have successfully summoned your boosted gear. Here's how it works. Every 10 seconds. Boost. That will happen, doubling your power. You can reach a maximum of 10 boosts before it resets." "Holy crap," Naruto muttered. "That's a lot of chakra." "Now I didn't say that. It will do. Boost. Double the potency and strength of your chakra, not the amount." "Alright, my bad." Naruto moved to test it, bringing his hands up to preform hand signs, but his arm was heavy and slow. "How am I supposed to make hand signs with this thing on?" "Boost. Some of my past vessels summoned 2 gauntlets and worked from there, but there might be other ways of getting around that problem. I'll leave that to you." Naruto thought about it. "Hey Drag." "Yes." "Boost. If there are gauntlets, then where is the rest of the armor?" "Within you, but you can't use all of it at once and remain within the laws of nature. You can really only summon 2 pieces at the same time or your body wouldn't be able to handle the power. At least, not in your current state." "So could I summon the chest piece if I don't summon the gauntlets?" "Yes, I suppose." Naruto released his hold on his boosted gear, allowing it to vanish back inside his body in a flash of red light. Suddenly, Naruto staggered, feeling like all of his power had been sucked out of him. That was probably the reset he used before reaching inside himself again. This time he pulled on the power within his chest rather than his arms. It was harder to pull out and it took a couple tries to do, but a blood-red chest plate with a green gem in the center materialized over his clothes. "Boost. Heh. I did it. Now, let's see how powerful my water style condensation is now." The genin made the necessary signs and announced the technique. Water from the surrounding air collected, forming droplets twice the usual size and fell to the earth. So much water condensed, as a matter of fact, that the surrounding air became arid and stifling, like Naruto was standing in a desert. "Boost. That worked. Let's try this. Earth style. Earth clone." Several clones rose out of the ground, no visible changes to them present. Slightly put out, Naruto dismissed the doubles and released his grip on Drag's power. In a flash of red light, the chest plate vanished back inside the blonde's body. He stumbled, the empty feeling of the reset filling him again. "I think that's enough for now," Naruto thought to himself. "I guess a celebratory bowl of ramen wouldn't hurt, though." His head filled with happy thoughts, the blonde turned back toward the village and walked off, humming an old Yuzu tune Drag had remembered and taught him, singing along in his head. "Be a man." Hinata waited patiently outside her father's office, sitting quietly. She'd signaled her presence several minutes ago and now was waiting for Hiashi to call her in. "Enter," the clan head called, prompting the girl to stand and slide the door back. "Good afternoon, father," Hinata greeted with a bow, forcing herself not to stutter lest the man berate her like he had several times in the past. Her father was a stern man in his early 40s with straight black hair that fell to the small of his back and the pale eyes that all Hyuga shared. He was dressed in his usual black and white robes and the desk before him was covered in several neat stacks of papers. "Is there something you wish to discuss?" Hiashi asked in a clipped tone. The man was a straight-to-the-point kind of person, but if one knew the man well enough, one could hear the subtle annoyance in the man's tone he gained once a month while going through the monthly records. I only wish to inform you that I have passed my final test," Hinata answered. The Hyuga clan head chose to ignore his daughter's stutter just this once on account of the information she had just provided. "I see. Congratulations. May I ask who your teammates and teacher are?" "My teammates are Shino Aburam and Naruto Uzumaki. Our sensei is Anko Mitarashi." Hiashi frowned at this information. He knew of both the village prankster and the snake mistress, as well as their reputations within the village. Unfortunately, he had no say in the matter now that they were officially a team. "I suppose a celebratory dinner is in order," the elder Hyuga commented, pushing aside his distaste until such time as he could talk to the Hokage about his choice of team assignments. "Please, go wash up. I will have a branch member receive you when it is time for the meal." Hinata bowed silently and exited before releasing the breath she didn't know she had been holding. She turned toward her room and walked off. "Oh," Hinata gasped, stopping suddenly so she didn't run into the person she hadn't seen around one corner. "Hello, Hanabi-chan." "Sister," the younger girl stated before brushing past her. Hinata sighed in annoyance. Things hadn't been like that between the two siblings until Hiashi had started training the younger of the two. Unable to do anything about it at the moment, the Hyuga heir worked her way to her personal quarters to prepare for dinner. "Father," Shino bowed. "Son," Shibi Aburam bowed back. Much like his offspring and most of their clan, Shibi was mostly hidden by his clothes. Only the skin around his eyes and his hands were exposed to the open air. A baggy, dark green jacket covered his upper half, while the collar hid the bottom of his face. Matching pants hid his legs from view, and goggles left his eye color a secret. I have passed the final test. I am glad to hear that. My teammates are Hinata Hyuga and Naruto Uzumaki. My sensei is Anko Mitarashi. That is most interesting. I expect you to push yourself harder than before. Indeed, father. I will see you at the meal tonight. Your mother will be proud of you, just as I am. Of course. Until then, father. Should I or should I not? The Hokage mused to himself. The Jonin had just left after telling him that only the last 3 assigned teams passed. Now, he was wondering if he wanted to tell Anko that one of her students was not only a Jinchuuriki, but also one of the 2 famous emperors. He thought about it for a few more minutes before coming to a conclusion. Nah, Hiruzen chuckled. I'll wait to see what her reaction is. There was a knock at his door, leaving him slightly confused. His secretary hadn't sent him a message saying someone was coming up, so Hiruzen stretched out his senses. Come in, Kakashi. The door opened, the white-haired Jonin standing there. Surprisingly, he lacked his usual orange book, telling the Hiruzen that he was serious about whatever it was he wanted to talk about. He sauntered in and stood before the Hokage. You're late, Hiruzen observed. Rather than continue that subject, Kakashi cut straight to the point. Why? He asked. Why what? You know what? I know a lot of wats. Please elaborate. Why didn't you let me teach Minato-san? Kakashi demanded. You know he was the one student I wanted to teach. Then maybe you should have gotten to know him rather than avoiding him like you have been. Hokage-sama. Don't Hokage-sama me, Kakashi, Hiruzen interrupted. You're too late. Naruto already has a team. But you told me that I would lead a team 7 consisting of Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Naruto Uzumaki. Then, I get to the academy, only to find out that all of the teams have been taken. You got there 3 hours after everyone had left, and if you had come to the briefing I'd called the day before, you would have seen the notice I handed out about the team changes. I'm sorry, I got caught on the road of life, Hiruzen waved off. I've heard it before. You missed your chance, Kakashi. Deal with it. The man's one good eye narrowed, but he wasn't about to backtalk his leader. With a bruised pride and rather angry thoughts, the Jonin turned and left. Alright, maggots. Anko yelled, bursting into the clearing and making all 3 of her genin jump. Everyone drop and give me 100. Shoes off, too. You're sadistic, bitch sensei, Naruto grumbled, his sandals falling from his hands. You want to repeat that, Whiskers? I said you're sadistic. I should hope so, the woman smirked. I was second in command of the T&I department. One of the best. She licked her lips. Now why are you just standing there? Get to work. Yeah, Naruto grumbled, being the most vocal of the 3. Blondie, Anko said, pointing to the Jinchuuriki. Because of your big mouth, you get to add 50 reps to your warm-up. Understood. Yes bitch sensei, Naruto growled out. After their push-ups, Anko had the genin run 2 miles around the rocky training ground barefoot. Then she had them do 100 sit-ups and finally had them finish their warm-ups with 75 chin-ups in the surrounding trees. Finally, the 3 pre-teens were given a break to catch their breaths. Can we please put our shoes back on? Naruto gasped, sucking in great heaving breaths. Next to him, Hinata's hair had ruffled and stuck to her head, while Shino was all but overheating in his overcoat. Alright, maggots, Anko sighed. I'll give you all 10 minutes. And yes, Whiskers, you can put your shoes back on. After that, I'll be sparing with each of you to find your strengths and weaknesses. Any questions? No. Good. She shoo-shined away to her favorite dango restaurant, leaving her genin alone. Alone until Kakashi wandered into the clearing. My, he chuckled. What happened to you 3? Warm up, Hinata panted. The genin had tensed at his sudden appearance, but his leaf headband dissuaded their momentary fear. Seems harsh. You do know you all could request a new teacher, right? We could, Naruto nodded, pulling himself up into a sitting position, but we haven't had ours for even a day. Head up, maggots. Anko's happy voice called, the woman appearing a second later. If you have the energy to talk, you have the energy to spar. Hello, Anko, Kakashi greeted. Well, if it isn't the Cyclops of Konoha, Anko responded, crossing her arms. What can I do for you? Nothing really. I was just passing through. You don't think you're pushing these kids too hard, do you? They're a bit weak for my taste, the snake mistress admitted, Hinata visibly deflating at the words, but that's to be expected. The academy's not what it used to be. A few weeks and I'll have these kids top of their class. I didn't even think you wanted students, the white-haired man said. I didn't, but what can I say? These brats impressed me. Now if you'll excuse me, I have some training to do. Ma, the other Jonin waved, walking away. Behind him, he heard Whiskers. You're up first. Go. End them pain screaming. She was the predator and they were the prey. 2 weeks had passed since that day. Naruto had regrown his arms to get a team and, much to Kakashi's ire, they were still Anko's students. Now, teammate was playing a dangerous game of cat and mouse with their instructor, trying to find a way to lure her into a trap and win, while avoiding her by hopping through the trees. Anko was several hundred yards behind them with Hinata tracking her via her Byakugan, but still she could pounce at any moment. And this game was damn serious. Food was on the line. Food. Naruto and his big mouth had struck a deal with Anko. The person who came up with the plan that wins the game got to choose where the group would go to eat after training. Eyes, Naruto whispered as quietly as he could. I have a plan. Shino and Hinata both nodded, giving Naruto the go-ahead. I've got a confession to make to you all, but the surprise factor could shock bitch sensei long enough for you two to tie her up. If the secret is that surprising, Shino began, wouldn't that mean that you would need to confide in us beforehand so we wouldn't freeze as well? I'm getting there. Hinata, are you okay with this? Why yes, Naruto-kun. Alright. Stop here and I'll make some earth clones to buy us some time. They dropped between two old oaks before the blonde make several hand signs and released 24 earth clones in Anko's general direction. That should do. What is this secret you wanted to share? You two remember how Iruka-sensei taught us about those dragons that supposedly came from another world, right? He got 2 nods in confirmation. Well, the way they change host is through the death of the previous one. When the old host died, the baby boy born closest to the time of death becomes the new host. Naruto, Shino interrupted in a monotone. Are you one of the famous dragon emperors? Thanks, Shino, Naruto huffed. Ruin the surprise, why don't you? Why you're one of the dragon emperors? Hinata questioned meekly. Which one? I'm the container of the red dragon. And I was hoping that I could reveal this to bitch sensei. She freezes in shock, you two tie her up. We all go get ramen on bitch sensei's tab. Sound like a plan? At least this is not as reckless as when you chose to sacrifice your arms, Shino joked with no emotion. Of course you had to bring that up, the blonde sighed. Hinata, how close is bitch sensei? Oh, a Byakugan. The veins around girl's pale eyes bulged as she scanned the area. Anko sensei J just killed the last earth clone, the Hyuga reported. She's on her way. Alright. You two, get in position. Both of Naruto's teammates nodded before jumping into 2 separate trees on either side of the clearing. 10 seconds passed before their purple-haired teacher rocketed into the area on a collision course with her blonde student. Only instinct saved Naruto from the beating her fist would have brought with her, said fist leaving a small crater where it impacted with the ground. The preteen leapt up from where he had rolled several feet away. Boy. Bitch sensei. I'm the Red Dragon Emperor. She turned to dispute his obviously fake claims, but when the snake mistress locked her eyes on the genin, she was nearly blinded by a flash of red light. Heh, the woman laughed. The academy files said you couldn't do Jinjutsu. I guess they were wrong. Her fingers curled into a ram sign and she pulsed her chakra, but the red gauntlet with a green gem on the boy's left arm stayed very real. Wait, what? It doesn't make any sense, Anko screamed mentally. Not only is this kid a Jinchuuriki and Uzumaki and the child of a cage, but he's also an emperor. The odds could only be more stacked for him if his parents had survived. Unfortunately for Anko, her mental rant was just long enough to give her other 2 students the time they needed to immobilize her with ninja wire and Kakachu beetles. Finally, her mind caught up with the situation. What? End of chapter 4. Chapter 5. The secret is out. Things were usually calm in the Jonin lounge, only the presence of 2 specific people shattering that peace, so when Anko Mitarashi quietly walked into the lounge one evening, everyone was set on edge. She and Might Guy were the 2 expected to cause a ruckus. No one was more edgy than the head of the T&I department, Marino Ibiki, who had only seen the snake mistress quiet when she wanted to play the silent intimidator role while torturing a prisoner. Oblivious to the confused stares she was getting, Anko wandered over to the coffee pot in the corner and poured herself a cup. After the big revelation, Anko had waved her brats off, telling them that training was over for the day. She was still trying to wrap her head around the fact that one of her students had the potential to be the strongest person to ever live. Uzumakis were notoriously strong as a small group was able to restrain a tailed beast, Jinchuuriki were nearly unbeatable if they controlled their Bijuu, and the dragons were said to be as strong as the Kyuubi itself. And then he was the offspring of the 4th, a fact told only to those who knew Minato Namikaze and his wife, or who the 3rd trusted to protect the kid after he was kicked out of the orphanage. Hell, Anko had wanted to adopt the kid because she'd known Kushina so well, but the damn council wouldn't let her. The fact that all of these mixed 2 strong gene pools, the world's strongest demon, and one of the world's 2 most powerful anomalies all rolled up into one 12-year-old. A brat. One of her brats. One of her brats. Holy fuck. Anko yelled, causing every other person in the room to jump and reach for their weapons. The woman's coffee cup shattered as her hand clenched, spilling its contents on the lounge rug. Holy fuck, holy shit, holy fuck. What is it, Anko? Ibiki asked as he strode over. What's wrong? By one of Dragon's brats, the woman muttered incoherently. Snap out of it. Ibiki ordered. Tell us what's wrong. Anko's muttering ceased, her mind shutting down to try to process the sudden understanding. Damn it. Is there a Yamanaka in here? The jonin in the lounge checked fervently, but no head of that Yamanaka shade of blonde presented itself. Well, someone go get one. Ibiki yelled. One of the jonin was about to dash out the door when Anko came to, bringing village-shaking news with her. One of my brats is the Red Dragon Emperor. Danzo was furious. He had no idea how that brat had evaded him. All this time, Hiruzen had prevented him from recruiting Naruto Uzumaki into Root, and now Danzo had a feeling that the old coot had known about the blonde status as not just the Jinchuuriki of the world's most powerful embodiment of chakra, but also as one of the fabled dragon emperors. If Danzo had learned while the brat was in the orphanage, he could have abducted him and paid off the attendants there. If Danzo had learned while the kid was in the academy, he could have taken him, bribed him with enough power to become Hokage. If Danzo had learned before the rest of the world, he could have faked the boy's untimely death by accident and brainwashed him. But now it was too late. It would cause too much of a stir if Naruto Uzumaki vanished. Now, he'd have to watch and wait for an opportunity to strike. Naruto Uzumaki, the Kyuubi, and the Welsh dragon would all be his. All in due time. Anko's declaration spread through the village's rumor mill like wildfire, most civilians who hated Naruto coming to the conclusion that the heir of the Aburam clan was the newest vessel of the dragon. Complaints flew to the Hokage, demanding that the trader's apprentice have her team stripped from her to protect the children's fragile minds. Hiruzen, of course, denied every attempt made. The children were shinobi. They would be expected to kill eventually, so they couldn't afford to coddle them. Currently, Anko was sitting in a booth in the Dango restaurant, uncharacteristically staring at her food while lost in thought. She'd already decided that she wanted her team to be more famous than even the Sannin in their prime, as a roundabout way of stabbing her teacher's ego, but with all of Naruto's potential, it would take a lot more work on Hinata's and Shino's parts just to keep up. And now that she thought about it, Blondie sacrificing his arms was unnecessary. He could have just picked the locks like he did afterward, so why? She couldn't see a reason for it. Was he just the sort of person to take unnecessary risks? Anko doubted it. If he'd failed, he would have been crippled for life, and his teammates would have been sent back to the academy. Would she have passed them even if he hadn't sacrificed his arms? Probably. None of the other genin hopefuls had gotten out of the cuffs. All they'd had to do was free themselves. Had the boy sacrificed his arms on the bet that both beasts inside him would help while the over-the-top act itself secure her approval? Whatever the case, it had worked. The snake mistress was pulled from her thoughts as another person slid into the seat across from her, and only reflexes caught the hand that reached for her dango. It's good to see you're at least partially aware of your surroundings, a female voice lightly chuckled. Glancing upward, Anko caught the gaze of Kurenai Yuuhi, her best friend. The black-haired woman's red eyes shone with a mix of worry and curiosity. Hey, Kurenai, Anko greeted. It's been a while, hasn't it? Yes it has, the woman answered. How's Hinata doing? Oh, that's right, Anko remembered. You wanted her on your team, didn't you? It seems I upset more than a couple of people with my team assignment. Kakashi was whining about something the other day. Do you want to talk about what's bothering you? It's Anko sighed. She was going to say it was nothing, but thought better. Kurenai could always see through her. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that Kushina-chan's son has two burdens rather than one, she finally whispered just loud enough to be heard. Be careful what you say in public, the Jinjutsu mistress warned. You and I both know who the brat's parents were, Anko responded. I may have known her better than you did, but that doesn't change anything. So Naruto is the new Red Dragon Emperor like the rumors say, not Shino. Yeah. And I don't know what to do about it. He's just a big ball of energy and I don't know if I'll be able to get my other two brats to keep up with him. I'm not even sure if I can keep up with him. My, the red-eyed woman chuckled. Could it be that you're taking a liking to your little genin? No, Anko huffed, not wanting to admit that they were growing on her. She was one of the most sadistic people in Konoha, damn it. A trio of brats couldn't worm their way into her heart or she'd turn soft. What about your brats, huh? They are, as the Nara would put it, troublesome. Both Sasuke and Sakura seem to have the potential to be Jinjutsu masters, but that's if I can get the girl to stop fawning over him. And Kiba's, well, Kiba. He's been trying to assert his dominance over Sasuke and it's not working out too well for him. I guess it wouldn't, Anko chucked. Sasuke was the rookie of the year, while Kiba was the dead last. Physically, he's the strongest of the three of them, Kurenai added, but he's hard-headed, too. You'll figure it out, Anko smiled. You always do. Alright, brats, Anko growled the next day. She'd gotten over the shock of Naruto's news and decided that she'd need to reevaluate his strength. Since one of you decided to hold back some information, I'm going to need to test him again. Wide eyes, Buggy, go practice tree walking or tree hopping. And if you hear any screams from this direction, don't worry about it. Hinata and Shino nodded, the former sending a worried glance toward the third member of their team. As they moved off into the forest, Anko's gaze centered back on the blonde. Alright, Whiskers, the woman began. Bring out your armor. Silently, Naruto did as bid, his chest plate materializing in a flash of red light. A second later, Drag's voice called out boost. Without warning, the snake mistress threw a kunai at the blonde who was too weighted down to dodge in time. The weapon pinged off the red armor and stuck in the ground with no damage done to the target. Hey. The boy shouted. At least give me a warning. We're just getting started, brat. This sucks, Naruto whined. He, Hinata and Shino were painting a house as part of a D-rank mission, the most recent of many, but Anko had decided that the normal way of painting houses was boring. All three genin had their wrists tied together and had been ordered to start at the top of the building and work their way down while looking down. They were also told that they had to use the tree walking exercise to not only keep themselves on the wall, but to also prevent putting footprints in the wet paint. The paint supply was on the roof. Keep going, maggots. Anko ordered, sitting in a lawn chair with Dango. Next to her was Marino Ibiki, the man whose house they were painting a blood red. I think this just might be the worst thing you've ever done, the man commented. I approve. As long as there aren't any footprints. They won't leave any, the woman waved off. I've warned them about what would happen if they do. The three genin shivered. For each footprint they left, all three of them would have to bear a minute of target practice as the target. You're evil, Ibiki laughed. I try, Anko smirked through a stick of dango. Bitch, Naruto grumbled. No, Hinata whispered next to him. Don't say. I heard that. You earned yourself 5 minutes, Whiskers. That, the girl finished sadly. Damn it, the emperor swore. I am beginning to believe that you are a masochist, Shino commented in a flat tone, even though he was making one of his rare jokes. I wonder if the person you marry will be as sadistic as Anko-sensei. I doubt it. The woman in question called. Even those with hidden kinks aren't as sadistic as I am. Losing her grip on her chakra as the blood rushed to her head, Hinata passed out. Oh, not again. End of chapter 5. What if Naruto was Dragon Jinchuuriki in high school DxD? End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.